The man you see here in this photograph is a Macedonian Albanian named Harush Zabiri. And then I heard some noise from another room, and I walked into the room, and they had found Harush, who I later learned who he was. And they showed me his ID card, and they're showing it, and they're yelling, Kosovar, Kosovar, Kosovar. So this photograph is from Bijelina, from the battle, or not even the battle, but the time that Arkan's tigers were basically liberating the town from Muslim fundamentalists. The man you see here in this photograph is a Macedonian Albanian named Harush Zabiri. He's probably about, I think he's about 19, 20 years old.
This is an Albanian?
Yes.
In Bijelina?
Yeah, I think the first prisoner of Bosnje was an Albanian. And
I didn't know that.
He was working in a pizza parlor across the street from a mosque. The tigers went into a mosque. They took down the Islamic flag. They put up a Serbian flag, and I posed for a photograph with the flag. And then I heard some noise from another room, and I walked into the room, and they had found Harush, who I later learned who he was. And they showed me his ID card, and they're showing it, and they're yelling, Kosovar, Kosovar, Kosovar.
What year is this?
This is 1992. This is March of 1992 in Bijelina. It goes along with the other photographs.
Okay, so the Serbs are telling you Kosovar, Kosovar.
Yeah. So for them,
what does it mean?
For them, I was assuming that means he's a terrorist. He's a fighter. He's Kosovar. Of course, he's a fighter. There's no weapons, nothing. This is some poor kid that was hiding in the mosque, knowing that that these guys were coming. And then, as we left, they had taken Harush prisoner and were bringing him back to be interrogated or whatever. I don't know. And so this time I wanted to make sure that these guys that had Harush saw that I knew that they had him, and I wanted to photograph them with them. So they threw him down to the ground, and that's when you see Harush raising his hands. He's raising his hands to me, asking me for help, of which the only help I could give him, which was barely any help, was to photograph it in the hope that they would know that there's photographic evidence of them taking him prisoner. We wound up going back to the headquarters. I then needed permission from Arkan to leave, and another photographer who had been working with another part of Arkan's unit also showed up waiting to leave as well. And while we were standing there, we heard a great crash, and Harush came flying out of the window and landed basically at our feet. They picked him up, he survived, they doused him with water, they said they were baptizing him, and we were photographing all of this, and they dragged him back into the house. Arkan arrived a moment later, somebody went up and told him what had happened, and Arkan came to me and said, give me your film. And unfortunately, I was not able to save the film. The film I had taken of the executions, I already hid in the car. So I lost the film, the last part of Harush, but luckily the other photographer, who was Serbian, was allowed to keep his film, and he published those photographs of Harush being doused with
Which is
water.
the Serbian photographer that published photos of Harush in the end?
I'd rather not say.
Okay. He never, are these photos public?
They're online, you can see them. They're AP pictures.
So these photos are AP pictures, and they exist, presumably? Harush died?
No, so
He
we
came
left,
flying,
we
landing in front of you.
He survived that. They brought him back into the house, and we left. The next day I went back. I went to the house was empty. I went to the hospital looking for Harush. I couldn't find him. So I never knew what happened to Harush until, I think, 2003 or maybe a little bit later. I get a message on Facebook from his brother.
What had happened?
We found Harush, identified him through DNA. They found him in the river Drina, and he was killed, and they buried him in Macedonia.
Where is his brother? Albanian brother, presumably, yeah?
Macedonia, yes, they were in the village. I went and met the family and so on. I went basically to meet the family to apologize for not being able to help him. And they were, I still don't understand, but so remarkably gracious and thankful that Harush's death actually had impact. The photograph was used. The photograph raised awareness. It became a symbol. And in fact, the family was here yesterday with me when I was speaking. They came here from Macedonia. But quite remarkable.